Oklahoma City, seen the place and having a nice time.
Excellent. And let's just kind of start off talking a little bit about your career and especially your big break, especially for
Big break.
big break,
The big trip.
the big trip. The role of getting to pilot the Titanic. What was that like for you, that experience, and to be part of that as far as.
That was just amazing. It's wonderful. I love working with Jim Cameron, and the great thing about it was, as far as we were in a privileged position because the area where we worked, which was the kind of steering wheel area and all that kind of stuff, was in exact perfect proportion to the real Titanic. So when we stood on the deck there, it was actually the way it would have been. Especially when we did the Southampton scene, which was very accurately reproduced. And we were looking down at a height. That's exactly what they would have been feeling and looking at. Because it was, that part of the ship was accurate.
That's fantastic. And of course, kind of going back a little bit before you actually landed that role as well, there's something, and looking at your roster of the movies that you've been in, there's always like a historic element. You played also on a part in the TV show I, Claudius. Is that right?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yes.
One clap did, as we called it.
What is it? What's the appeal about that type of those kind of historical pieces, or that part of history? Kind of bringing that to life for people.
I think at that time, given the stage of my career and the things I was doing, the biggest draw to that was money. And it wasn't really, I'm going to do this because it's got more money than that. It was a question of, I better do this because nothing else is coming along.
That's fantastic. And back to Titanic for a minute. That experience there. Now, from what we've heard, that you had, it sounded like you had a really great relation with Mr. Cameron and just the cast itself. What was that experience like, just to kind of work on a set that big and a production that big at that time?
No, that was good because for Jim, his favourite character was the captain, because he's a bit of a captain himself. That's kind of what it was. And he kind of favoured the captain, not necessarily me, because I was the actor that he always looking for, but he liked the captain, and he favoured in terms of what the captain would have to do, more than probably other characters, and that was great for me because I had a benefit from that. He gave people a really bad time. He's a guy that if you're working to your full potential, he loves you. But if he thinks you're sliding just slightly down and off it, they'll kill you. And he gave some people a really bad time, mainly because they weren't that good. They weren't that good as actors, and they weren't that good in the role that he cast them in. So he has to take some responsibility for that. But he's not very good at accepting any accusations of fault. He doesn't like taking the blame for anything, especially when it is his fault. But he's a great guy. I loved him. I got on really well with him. We did some good things together. Not all appeared on the screen, but we did some good takes. It was a good working situation between him and I.
Excellent. And kind of like just bouncing around here a little bit, size and scope wise, something that is so big and epic. Did you kind of take anything from the experience of being in that film, and then when you were in the Lord of the Rings series? I mean, just the scope of
in Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you noticed, but I think they probably edited it out. But those scenes with the big ship in Lord of the Rings, did you not see that? There's a really big ship with 4 funnels going through that Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of round about at the end of episode 2.
Yeah, I think you're right. What was it like just as far as like cast and crew and just the pressure probably to for everybody, you know, to put forth their best effort and in both those films.
The thing is, Pete Jackson was a sublime man. He was a great guy to work with, massively talented. And he set his own standards, and we all had to go by them, really. No one could complain because he was getting less sleep than anybody else. He was doing 10 times the work of anybody else. So nobody could really get, you know, even Liv had to kind of tone down the complaints, you know. No more, oh, Peter, you know, he was ignoring her, and so were we. But she's a great lady, and she, you know, she kind of didn't try on too much. A little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, since the Titanic was in the Lord of the Rings, which the captain or which was the more physically demanding role for you?
Oh, Lord of the Rings. Because you know, Smith didn't actually get on a horse and go riding around the decks, did he? Really?
And it would have made the movie more interesting.
It would have made the movie something else, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would have. Yes, it would have. So I'm sure there's also some people here in the audience who'd like to ask you some questions. If anybody would like to, you can feel free to stand up, and I'll walk down and hand the mic if people would like to start lining up now. Yeah?
You have to ask me in Greek.
And I'm going to walk down here at the end and hand the microphone.
Hi.
Oh.
We're so pleased to have you here in Cincinnati, and I do hope you get a chance to walk around a little.
I know, me too.
I wanted to tell you, I'm a horse person, so all the scenes in Rohan were like, I was just in horse heaven. And I think you had like one of my favorite lines in the whole trilogy, you know, Gondor calls for aid, and Rohan will answer. And I just love that. When the scene where you're putting on the armor and you're saying, you know, where are the horse
The horse and the rider, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good scene, good emotional kick to that part of the film.
Yeah, and so I was wondering, you know, because that's just pure Tolkien there, you know, the days gone down in the West and all. And I was just wondering what kind of a Tolkien fan you were, if you were a big fan of the books before the film, or if you'd read them at all, and just. The book I got a lot of my references from was a book that someone gave me in 1972, and it was interesting because it was very heavily thumbed as I've been reading it for about a third, and then there's a section that had not been actually opened or read, and then it got kind of a little rough towards the edges of the book. So I kind of got fed up part of the way through, and then it's a tricky book. It's really hard, that book. And his editor, you know, Tolkien's editor, there's a German guy, didn't really have the charisma to get hold of Tolkien and say, this is too long. Cut this to shreds, and he'll make it a better series of books. And Tolkien, he would never have listened to that. But it needed a serious editor on it, really, and it didn't get it. So that's why it was a pretty boring book. They said this. No, people say it's the most read book after the Bible, and I'm saying it's probably the most bought book after the Bible. Like the Bible, a lot of people claim to have read it, haven't been anywhere near it.
She referenced the horse riding scenes. How much experience had you had with riding, and how much preparation went into those scenes?
I was no good as a rider when I thought I could ride, and of course, you know, if you think like that, then you can't ride. So I was going around Weta, which was the Weta workshop, which is where all the armor was made and all the weaponry was made and all that kind of stuff. And Richard Taylor, who ran Weta then and still runs it, he would show as the actors appeared on the scene, he would have their accoutrements laid out on display. And we didn't spot this for ages. When the actor left the workshop, it all went back into storage until the next actor came along,
And they got them all out again, different uniforms and stuff like that. So mine was quite considerable. And he was showing me around, and this is probably in the first week I was in New Zealand. I hadn't done any filming at that point. I'd just been shown around stuff, to, get familiar, meet people, get familiar. And all the spears were down, there was racks of everything, uniforms, armour, all that kind of stuff. And the spears were in little kind of, I don't know, trays, and they were leaning down these aisles, and they were leaning like that. And I was being shown around, and I thought, this is amazing. This is, oh wow. This is like, if it's in parallel fields, which is a charge, so it means we're all going to be in line abreast. I didn't know that, I just assumed. We're going to be line abreast, we're all going to be, they're going to be lined up before we go on the charge. Everybody's going to be lined up, and I thought, well, what happened? What happened is the king went down with his sword against the shield, these spears, and he just went down one by one, like, ding, 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 to kind of infuse these spears, and therefore the people holding them with the valor, with the pride and everything of Rohan coming from the king. I thought that'll really get them going. So I thought, I've got this. So the next day, I went into a script meeting with Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens. They were doing the scripting at the time. And they'd write whatever they were doing, and then they would go through to Pete, he was okay or not. And I said, I've got a great idea for Pelennor Fields. And they went, but I said, what? They said, no, I've got this great. The king rides down the spears, and tips his sword against the spears, like when a kid goes down railings with a stick, going ding, 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 And they said, what are you talking about? Pelennor Fields is 9 months away. Let's do talk about what we're going to do tomorrow. Okay, so it went through the system a little bit, but then, and I kept bringing it up, saying, well, can we talk about Pelennor Fields? Like, no! What about all the spears? It's a great idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, let's talk about more recent scenes that we've got to do first. So we did, and in the end, and Pete Jackson never said to me, never came up to me and said, oh, by the way, it's a good idea, and we're going to shoot that Pelennor Fields like you suggested. He never ever came up to me. I just arrived one day in a place called Twisel, which is in the middle of Twisel. Nothing there. It was just a roundabout that someone had forgotten was there, And he said, I said, how are we doing? He said, that's good. We're gonna do shooting in one. We're going to talk about the film, and I said, but how are we going to do it? He said, and then we're going to go. You're going to do your thing. And I said, oh, so he made it through. He went, what? No, can we just do it? So I'm left-handed. So in my head, in my feelings, I was going to go down there with the spears on the left-hand side. I had a really uppity horse, spring step, and a very heavy sword. And he said, right, so you go down there, and then you get to the end and turn around, and then you come charging back against that side. I said, but that's the wrong side. I'm left-handed. You've got to do it the other way around. You're going to have to do it that way and then flop the film, because I can't do it. I don't have the strength in my right arm. And anyway, how am I going to... So he said, well, just go down there. Just go down and just do it. Just say the lines, say the things, the heroic... Oh, God, right? So it became time to do it. So I was holding the horse, reining the horse in with my right hand, because that's how I used to ride, right-handed. And my sword, because I'm left-handed, my sword was on my right hip. The scabbard was on my right hip. So the first time we did it, I had to go down, and then I get to the end of the row and turn around. There's 250 horses with riders as part of the charge. They made it look like a lot more, but That it was really, in reality, 250 soldiers. 250, but they weren't all male. They were females with beards on. Because they couldn't get a lot. People bringing their own horses, they couldn't get 250 males. So you have to mix it all in. So imagine, to try and picture this. I've got this wonderful horse. So I get into the end and turn him round and try and calm him down. And of course he's got 250 sets of adrenaline in front of him, going, what are we doing? Whoa, I've got something to do first. So what I had to do, I said, get rid of the reins somehow, so I had to get it in this hand, and then I had to stick my hand under this elbow to get my sword out. To get the sword out, I couldn't get it out probably. So pull it out a bit harder, a bit walk around and the horse, he went, where are we going? No, we're not going yet. And he goes, what's the holder? What's the holder? It's me. So eventually I got the sword out, and then the sword's up here. I go, it's holding the reins, so I've got to get the reins out. Down like that, and then I've got to go swap the sword over for the reins to go down, because I said, okay, we're move. And we're gone. I know, we started to say the lines. So I just set off that completely out of control. Down the thing, bang, 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 bang. And I thought, what a stupid idea. I just wanted to go back to the training camp and say, I need more riding experience. I was doing 7 days a week anyway, riding, but for about probably 4 hours a day. I was doing a lot of riding, and then riding for fun at the weekend. But that was the hardest thing I've ever done. I think that was a tricky thing. Swapping those reins for a sword.
And how much heft did that sword have?
Well, the sword was really heavy. It's a hero sword. It was real.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some people there got versions of that sword. It was really, really heavy. A lot heavier than that.
Now, is it true? Were you gifted that sword after the filming, or is that something I read one of those internet rumors I read somewhere?
Well, say that again.
Were you gifted a version of the sword or anything after the filming? Do you understand that? Or?
Oh no, we came to the end, and with massive generosity,
yeah,
Peter Jackson and the producers, they said, you can have one item and we'll send it home for you. So and I didn't know that was going to happen. Otherwise, I think we would have got in conference with other actors to say, what are you going to choose? It's just, that's it, you choose now. So I thought, okay, I'll have my helmet. They said, what are your helmet? Do you want a sword? I said, no, I've already got a sword I use for practice. So I've got a practice sword. So why the helmet? I said, because I hate that frigging helmet. It's like that, you see? Then you look cross-eyed in the movie, you hurt my nose, and I couldn't hear anything. So, it wasn't the nicest helmet, and I thought, I'll get them to send it home, because I wasn't finished with the filming. There's still a fair bit to do, so I said, yeah, you can send that home. I said, what are you going to do with it when you get home? I said, I'm going to kick it around the frigging garden. I hated that helmet. And I said, I still got it. And every now and again I take it out of the little box I've got it in and kick it around the garden. It's absolutely true. There's no word of a lie. That's true. I did.
Does anybody else have any questions?
How long did the makeup take in Lord of the Rings?
On a regular basis, probably about an hour and a half. But when I did the old man, that was 9 hours. Woo! Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hi, I'm Nick.
Hi, Nick. This is Nick, guys.
Hi, Nick.
Say hello to Nick.
Since Théoden is the king of Rohaniel, he of course has to have like the most decorative armor around, of course. How did it feel wearing all that armor while riding the horse?
I'm sorry I slipped away then. Because I think I blotted it out. The problem was with that is it was like a beetle, because it was solid at the front. And my arms went in round the side of it. And as we were doing the fights with the different monsters that were coming at us, this side was fine. Going on bang, 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 like that. But this side was a little more difficult. I had to go over this. This is Alison, everybody. Say hello to Alison, everybody. She's going now. She's fed up. Ah, thank you. It's a bit late. Thank you, Alison. So, I don't know, why do I look like I need water? Anyway, so this side was almost impossible, because if I did a big sweep, this part of my arm would go against the hard edge of the armor on this side and push it into this arm. So I would get bruised both sides of my body at the same time. It's an amazing piece of organization, really. So they had to put padding here, which made this part of the armor bigger, and padding here because I just, because it was getting a bit silly really, because I'm just full of bruises in areas where I shouldn't have bruises. And what was the question?
It was, did you like wearing all that armor while riding the horse?
No, it didn't at all. And the horse had armor on as well, a big, thick canopy over its flanks, all each side of its body. And of course, if anyone's ridden a horse and try to use your legs when you can't use your legs, and it makes no difference what you're doing with your legs to the horse, then you realise just how stupid it is to put a canopy over a horse. But I couldn't take it off, and they wouldn't take it off for me.
So, talking, about 9 hours of makeup for the old version.
But we only did the full makeup, I think, 3 times. We did it in stages, different times.
Yeah. So at least it was only 3 times then versus.
It was only 3. It could have been a lot worse. Yeah.
We were talking about the swords and the spears and everything. Did anybody get nicked or anything during that filming? Swinging around all those weapons and being on horses, or?
Did anybody get injured with it?
Yeah. Did anybody?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mentioned Liv earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
She had a lady stunt double, and she was a lot higher than her. Liv's tall, so on top of the horse, she's even taller. But she had, for some reason, she stabbed downwards with her sword, and the sword went through the top of the armor, down over a name called Lani, and she was a horsewoman. She taught me how to do the falling horse routine, and the sword went down over her cheekbone, through some of the cheekbone, and down through her jaw, and she went down off. She was on the floor, and Liv was just horrified because there was blood coming out the bottom of her. She had makeup on. She was an orc, so she had all that going on, and there was blood coming out the bottom of the makeup. And Liv was just in bits. I mean, she never really recovered from that, and asked her, to go, because she said, "I'm not a fighter. I'm not even a horsewoman. And in any way, my character shouldn't be in this part of the film making love with the king of, what's he called? Viggo Mortensen, who was playing, whatever his name was. Aragorn, yeah. I mean, it was just a love story, a love twist that they put in for dramatic effect. It just didn't work with Not With Liv. Because she knew that it was wrong, and she didn't want to do it. And now she's hurt somebody really badly. Anyway, Lani was okay. She had a big scar, still has a big scar down here. Still working with horses. But she did, that was
a pretty serious moment, really.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like for all the long work and the hours and the challenges, I'm sure there had to be some very happy and memorable moments for you during that filming and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit about that? What were some of your favorite parts about being involved with the Lord of the Rings movies?
Riding the horse. No, seriously, because we used to do, because I suggested this ridiculous idea of the king riding down going ding, 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 ding. And I thought about it one night and I thought, this could be really good. The only trouble is if they asked you to do it tomorrow, you couldn't do it tomorrow because you're just not that good a rider. So I went to the riding people, and I had a particular teacher called Robin, and I said, listen, I've got this idea, and what do you think? She said, you're going to need some training. You're going to need some exercising because you couldn't do it. So that's what I thought. So that's why I used to go and do 7 hours a day with her, really, with all different kinds of horses. So I became a horseman for the first time in my life. I was really glad that that was it. And I suppose it was working that horse that eventually went lame, so we had to swap it for another horse. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but Théoden leaves Edoras on a white horse, on a grey horse, and arrives in Helm's Deep on a brown horse. Did anyone ever notice that? You go, well, how did that happen? It's because the horse went lame in the meantime with the film. But I suppose those days, riding down the beach in New Zealand, just north of Wellington, 18 abreast, in line, in disciplined line, starting off doing a walk, and then doing a trot, and then doing a short canter, and then a long canter, and then a gallop. And galloping along the line with 17 other horses was just wonderful.
It's fantastic. I thought I saw someone else who had a question. I'm going to walk down here and make it a little bit easier for you. If some of you want to come up here to the front, and I'll hand the mic off to you.
Time.
Hello.
So that was a big time commitment. You guys were all down there for a long time. What did you do in your relaxing time? What did you guys hang out, or what did you do?
As far as I'm concerned, I just went to sleep. If I had any spare time and it was still daylight, I'd go and go to the stables and do a bit more riding. But we parted quite a lot. That was good. Especially in Queenstown, which is a party town. Queenstown is a ski resort. There's lots of skiers, Japanese, French, Germans, and we'd go and find out where they were partying, And the Stunties, they were there too. They were there before we were. They were drunk long before we were.
How many people did you work with, like crew-wise, on any given day and shoot? How many were typically involved when you were on set?
With the crew?
Yeah. Any idea? Or even fellow actors, the number of people that were on a particular set on any given day?
I don't know. 50? Sometimes less. But there's always lots of people.
Yeah.
Hi.
Right.
So how did you feel about playing the character Théoden?
How did I feel about playing Théoden?
What did you think?
Well, I wasn't playing a character, I kind of became the guy, like we all did. Pico got very bolshy, as Aragorn, we used to call him arrogant. People disappeared into their characters really quite quickly. And the guy who played Wormtongue, Brad Dourif, was one of America's greatest actors. He played it with an English accent. And that's the only accent he used. He lost his own accent, threw it away, and started speaking with an English accent. And when I arrived, it was a kind of month or two after everybody else. And so I knew Brad from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and stuff like that. And he was speaking with an English accent. And I never thought twice about it, but he was being English. And then he got wrapped completely from the film. He finished. And I went to see him in the wardrobe. No, in the big catering tent. And he was there with quite a few people, and he was joking around, and so he's finished, I'm finished, yeah, you're finished. After all that time. And he had an English accent, it disappeared, he's speaking with an American accent. And I said, what are you doing? Why are you speaking in that really weird, fake American accent? He said, because that's the accent I was born with. I said, no, that's crazy. He said, no, this is how I speak. And because I'd only heard him with an English accent, and I realised that's the worst American accent I've heard. Absolutely true. There's a lesson in how to do an accent, really.
One more. What was it like filming in Helm's Deep?
Well, we used to call it Hell's Deep. And we had T-shirts. We all wore T-shirts under our uniform, under our outfit, saying Hell's Deep. It was brutal. It was really brutal. That was tough work.
He actually kind of took mine, because I was going to ask how it was filming the stoic rain scene at Helm's Deep, to be told to stand there, look at the camera, don't move, and just get rained on. It had to not be fun at all. So he kind of took that. So I guess another question I have is, knowing the Lord of the Rings books, if you were cast for the film and any character that you got to choose, would you still choose Théoden, or would you choose another character to act in Middle Earth?
Oh, this is a big secret. The first part that Peter Jackson wanted me to play, because he knew my work in England, and he wanted me to put me on tape for Gandalf. And I thought, not sure about this, because I was directing a play. In the local theatre, and I didn't want to go to London and put myself on tape for Gandalf. I just didn't want to play Gandalf. I didn't want to play a stupid wizard, So I didn't do it very well. I wasn't serious, or I didn't do it with any kind of conviction. And quite rightly, they spotted it and said, you're useless. We can't do this. Except Pete wanted me in the film. And about 10 days later, I got to say, could you put yourself on tape for Théoden? And I said, Théoden? So I knew Gandalf, because it's a famous person, literary figure. So I had to go looking in the book that I owned for Théoden. I had no idea who was Théoden, I didn't know the hell he was. So I thought, this is a good idea. So I got a friend of mine who owned a barn, and he had some film equipment. And I said, do you want me to play this character? And they sent me sides of the script that they want me to do. Shall we do it? And I'll direct it myself. So that was the attraction, me directing myself as Théoden. So we did that. And within 12 hours, the offer came back. And I thought, no, we're not supposed to do this. I'm not meant to play this part, really. I don't want to do it. So I really didn't want to do it, and hesitated giving a reply. In the end, it was like, people knocking on the door in the middle of the night. Do you want to play Théoden? And I go, no. So So I thought twice about it. Got my agent said, no, it'll be good, it'll be fine. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I'd love to do it. That sounds very kind of conceited, doesn't it? But it's not, wasn't it? It was quite, let's just be practical.